in. Curious that Kingzone DragonX choose this game to sub out Khan and bring in Rascal. But Kingzone versus KT. First time it's gone to 3 games since this KT roster came together in spring 2017. Kingzone's strategy in game number 1 on blue side, ban away those junglers from score. I imagine they're going to return to it.
Yep, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Gragas, Kindred, Sejuani was the first round bans, and then pick yourself a Trundle. Seems pretty standard. The Sejuani's going to come in before the Kindred this time, but I have a feeling that things aren't going to change too much unless Kingzone have a different idea. Want to ban something else away instead. Aatrox, of course, the understandable one for KT. Is Talia going to follow?
KT have to ban Talia. You don't want to give that over to Peanut. I think this is the time you drop the Zoe ban. You accept that Zoe may be first picked by Kingzone, and you try to attack Kingzone in a different way. We'll see what the final ban is from Kingzone. If it's following previous times, it'd be Kindred. Kindred is a risky pick for most teams that aren't KT. I would say KT has had the best ability to close games with Kindred. Still, Score going to draw 3 respect bans. Is it just going to be a first pick Trundle again? Because you can just ban Trundle here if you're KT. And they're not going to do it. They just return to game 1 bans.
Yep, happy with the Zoe. Wonder whether they're going to be happy with the Kazakhs. As of course, Kingzone going to be looking at the Trundle. Rascal scrolling through, eventually finds it. There we go. He's going to be locked in, and now, what's the adaptation? KT knew that this was going to be the setup. They knew exactly what was going to happen, and these 2 picks need to change if KT want to have something that looks better. This pick doesn't need to change. Marta looked great in game number 1, even though they lost.
I don't think Nocturne has to be completely dismissed, even though a lot of teams are dropping it. Could be considered here. Otherwise, it's going to be a very different style of pick from KT. They've played Camille jungle, but it hasn't been so convincing. And they're just going to first round the Azir. What is going on in the meta? We had the blind pick Orianas. We're already back to blind pick Azir Town. It is a weird and wonderful world.
Picking that into BDD is rough, though, because what does Azir hate? He hates a lot of the assassins that can be tricky around his Emperor's Divide. BDD certainly has been a player to play all of those sorts of things.
Is it time for Tahm Kench Ezreal? That could be considered by Kingzone. The Varus for a stronger laning phase is available. The Swain as a champion is available, but Kingzone, while they had a victory in game number 1 on it, don't have to return to it every game, and I'd love to see Prey versus Deft on a marksman battle, and they go for the strongest possible laning phase in the Varus Tahm Kench.
Yeah, and I thought that Ashe could have been another option, but going back to the tried and true Prey champions in the bow and arrow users, it's going to be archery on the bottom side of the map for Kingzone, and Kai'Sa going to be locked in. KT getting the best flavors of their last composition and picking them up one after the other, and will now be able to augment it with something for the top side, potentially the Nara if Kingzone don't ban it away, and they'll have the majority of their composition.
But it is definitely bold to pick Kai'Sa into Varus, but is it that much more bold than the Varus Morgana they drafted against 2 days ago? Kench definitely doesn't have the same lane presence as a Morgana, so you would say it feels like almost every spot is a good spot for Deft to return to the Kai'Sa. When interviewed, I believe it was Inven Global who interviewed him, he said, that's just what the coach told me to play, so I played it. Coach clearly liking what he saw in game number 2, as the mobility of the Kai'Sa and the Azir together as a duo of threats was very impressive. They take the Kai'Sa, see what the bans are for the second round. KT actually going to ban the top lane Ryze here. Actually a top lane Ryze ban because Rascal has been spamming it in solo queue.
Yeah, he's 10 wins, 5 losses over the last 7 days. So, yep, I'd say spamming it certainly counts when it's 15 games. Over 7 days, the Gragas, another one that Rascal has been playing a lot of, but of course, first ban for Kingzone is Vel'Koz to be taken off the board.
Old matchup into the Azir. The Crown, for example, was very famous for picking, so we're rolling all the way back. I see you having a out-of-body experience. What's going on, Atlas?
Xerath.
You know, the Shurima mid lane could happen.
Are we going to go back to it?
BDD has played it. Score has played Nidalee.
God.
This would be bold. The Rek'Sai, a lot of these picks could be considered. What are we going to see here from Score? He brought out the Kazakhs in game number 1. I think the Kazakhs needs to go.
Yeah, Kazakhs definitely bad news. Graves is a decent choice. 5 seconds to go now. I would love to see the Lee Sin, honestly, but this is going to be a high-level skirmishing jungler coming in for Score. If this Graves can get going, he could take over this map. Doesn't matter how tanky your Trundle is. Graves can wreck things.
He wants something that has a combat advantage over the Trundle, but he doesn't want to go all the way into the Kazakhs. They lost on that one. Remember, BDD's played Xerath in the LCK, played it in spring season a one-off game, but that was with a bajillion bans mid lane. There's
Here
less than a
we go.
bajillion, but it is Shurima time. Your out-of-body experience was a premonition.
It was. I could feel it. I could feel the Shuriman sands shifting, as we will have possibly the Pirate to be locked in here for Rascal. It'd be an odd experience to watch Rascal be the one to pick it up when Khan is so damn good at the GP. But now KT can throw anything at it that they want. This one would be a safer pick. Rascal just going to try being a dinosaur for a little while.
Will KT return to something different here because the Gnar is taken away in the bans? Uh-oh, I see Smeb rubbing his fingers together. He seems to have an idea gestating in his mind. Does look at the sort of enemy team that a Kennen will be strong against, but the Ornn also will find targets whatever happens. Xerath and Varus, whatever the Varus build, open up from range. And while it may not be something like the Kennen for a teleport flank, from safety, Ornn can say no. No positioning for you, you're going to have to reposition.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking about the long-range, pretty reliable engage that the Ornn does give you, we haven't seen it paired with an Azir because the metas haven't been in similar positions. Emperor's Divide is going to offer so much if he can close that gap, and closing the gap is exactly what they need to do against the long range of Kingzone's AD carry and mid lane.
Cho'Gath, a good matchup into Ornn. So for laning phase, it's not necessarily a fantastic choice, but it's Ornn. It's all about getting through, and also Atlas. Let's remember another nice synergy. Whole lot of hard CC for your boy Deft to follow up with the Plasmas on, because Ornn as a champion is the wet dream of a Kai'Sa.
Oh yeah, getting everyone brittle so that Deft can... Whoa, KT fans raising their voices.
We were talking about the voices in our head. We're talking now about the voices that we see around here. We all know what the voices in the KT fans' heads are saying. Is it time? Is it our moment? Is it our moment to beat down Kingzone? And truly, maybe that's when they can believe that this will be their summer season. As we get the last match.
Beautiful.
It was BDD. Now, Yukal, this is when KT banned, I believe, 7 mid laners. They can't actually ban 7 mid laners, but there were so many mid laners banned, and then outranged the Syndra as a Xerath, and the Syndra was out of meta at that point as well. That was a very creative matchup. We're back to the Comet Xerath. This meta has gone from blind Orianna to blind Azir, and now we get a responding Xerath. How can you argue?
Yep, now we're stuck back in 2015 in the mid lane, even alongside a Trundle. I think we've seen this combination before as well, because I've spoken about the fact that the Trundle pillar is relatively high range as well and can set up the slow so that Xerath can land his abilities. Doing their best to swap colors as well, given the skin choices. And Yukal unable to avoid the first Arcano Pulse coming in from the Xerath. Damn, I'm going to have to try and remember all of the Xerath ability names.
But we'll also remember all the damn Xerath versus Azir games we cast together in LPL Spring 2015, when this was the matchup basically every game.
Exactly. I'm just reminded of Xiaohu on RNG, was on Gamty back then, our little boy.
Back in those days, I believe we saw a Xiaohu versus Dade Masters 3 Gamty game where they wave cleared for 35 minutes till an outer turret went down.
Yeah.
The mid lane could go forever, guys, so strap yourselves in. Mid lane, non-interactive.
Yep. Remember back, if you can, to Season 2. This is a Froggen-style mid lane situation. Wave clear, wave clear, wave clear, and that probably suits KT, who have got pretty standard front-to-back composition. Maybe not with Score in the jungle, but definitely with this Ornn on the top side of the map that can certainly tank it with the best of them. Rascal doing the same thing, and I like the Ornn pickup. Does nullify the fact that the Cho'Gath is pretty good at stopping all of the shenanigans of a carry top lane.
And again, you have 2 champions that self-root. You have the Varus, who has the self-slow on the Q, and you have the Rite of Arcane for the Xerath. Ornn should interrupt one of those 2, or just be a pick onto one of those 2 on a flank. So, a lot of value in Ornn. I feel like Ornn has been underplayed in the last 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, I feel so too.
He's more situational than he was in spring, where why not Ornn was a question that did frustrate Kingzone. As remember, we did have Khan refusing to play the champion at MSI, and Let Me doing just fine on it, and leading to a lot of good news stories for RNG. It's been very underplayed in summer, and cool to see it back, especially in a situation where it's set up to succeed.
Yeah. Well, you can see Peanut, he's back in base, whereas Score is on to the top side of the map. Ward goes down for Rascal though, and it's going to have to be a give-up situation for the Graves, who will go back to farming out his jungle very, very effectively. Deft and Marta getting shoved in here on the bottom side, something that we'd expect given the prowess of Prey on Varus and just Varus as a champion, but at least they're able to clear out the minion wave as it crashes together yet again. Gets the reset, things are okay.
All-in trades can potentially work for the Kai'Sa in this matchup, because this is a matchup compared to the Swain matchup where we said, well, doesn't care so much about the dodge field, as people have to hold the points. Having some trades with Rascal. The dodge field onto the Varus a lot stronger, and the potential to turn around what is, like we outlined, a pretty oppressive laning phase for the Varus.
Yeah. See how it evolves as the game goes on. Smeb with some intelligent Bellows Breath uses against Rascal, who's trying to keep himself healthy in this matchup. Lands the Rupture though, and that's going to be a huge deal as Score trying to capitalize on the fact that Rascal doesn't have any mana left. Has to use the flash, not going to get knocked up this time, but that's a free flash, and Score just pokes his head in, says, hello guys, there's the flash, and I'll be back to my jungle.
Had the Trigger Ward down from the Trundle from earlier, and that's why the stun didn't register on the QE, delayed there from Smeb. So Rascal will get away, has his own ward to put down, gets back into the lane. Smeb will take the opportunity to refill his mana, and everyone backs away.
Yep. Same different colored rocks picked up by both of our top lanes, but thankfully for Smeb, that Catalyst will be able to be completed when he's in lane, if it is going to be the choice. As the taunt comes down from Gorilla, and able to offer some damage back onto Marta, even licks his back there just a little bit. Any Mighty Boosh fans out there would have found that hilarious. However, I don't know whether anyone's actually seen the show.
I haven't seen that.
I've
watched a lot of TV, but I haven't watched the...
Well, let me give you a little bit of context. It was the moon talking about licking the sun's back.
Unfortunately, you're trying to explain a joke and a reference I don't know, so I'm going to just say...
No, that's it. That's
okay.
that's basically how the joke worked. It's just a moon getting excited about licking a sun's back. Yep, that's how it works.
Hilarious.
Yeah. It was funny at the time. Trust me.
I feel the same way about a lot of our commentary. Doesn't
Especially
age well.
this particular portion of it. Does KT have a 400 gold lead, actually, sort of out of nowhere. 500, considering the fact that Ornn is farming very well. Things are even on the bottom side of the map, and Yukal has a slight advantage in the mid lane. Different to his Syndra versus Xerath experiences.
Fucked-in potion start for Yukal so many times means he is topped up for the majority of lane phases. Doesn't care so much about the Arcano Pulse. Again, non-interactive lane where Yukal tries to push up, and BDD hopes he gets lucky and is able to poke and wave clear at the same time with the Q.
Well, Teleport going to come back down towards the bottom side of the map, understanding that Prey is going to be there. Unsealed Spellbook means that Gorilla can move himself around the map as well. Possibly help out his other lanes. And Deft also using that Teleport, gets back down. BF Sword versus the Bilgewater Cutlass. This has been picked up by Prey.
Further plays into the Varus in a wonderful spot in terms of trades.
Oh, yeah.
This is not a Arcane Comet Varus. Prey has played that. We've also seen it from Deft this season. It's going to be the Blade of the Ruin King more standard build to help kill Ornn in the front line.
Well, speaking of killing Ornn, Peanut also setting himself up for that one. As, using the Bellows Breath on the minion wave means that should actually push out, but Smeb holding it in this great spot. Peanut frustrated with the fact that the top lane has been pretty much frozen in front of Smeb's turret, and Rascal is the only one that's going to be under any sort of danger or threat, given the fact that he doesn't have his flash.
And with the Graves pickup, while Score has not made any ganks happen, what you can say about the Graves is he stays on the Rift more than almost any other jungler because he's so sustained in the jungle. And he's one of the few junglers that can have the similar creative pathing that you can see from a Trundle. So it's very hard to predict where Graves is. And he can also win most skirmishes against Trundle, given the range advantage and his burst damage. So definitely not been the sort of game where a Trundle's been able to dictate to a Sejuani or another jungler. Been much more even between Score and Peanut.
I also really love the fact that Graves has implied threat on the map as well. That's what's been able to give KT all of this control ward pressure. You can see the Azir, happy as Larry in the mid lane. He's surrounded by control wards. Not going to have to worry about Peanut moving towards there. And a lot of it is to do with the fact that skirmish advantage is in favor of Score at almost any turn.
I love that you were talking about implied threat just as Prey was 2 minions away from level 6, and Deft and Marta were respecting the experience bar. Gorilla also will have his level 6 shortly, as ultimates now available on Prey and Deft.
Yep, Deft and Marta just managed to get about half a health bar of shield onto Deft if they want it. In one level, that's certainly handy, and Score looking to try and capitalize on it. Marta puts down the control ward, and I think Kingzone understand exactly what's going on there, but Score moves in very, very quickly. Not going to spot the fact that Gorilla teleported in, but they are going to, sorry, teleported away, but are going to spot him teleporting back. Prey, unbeknownst to the location of the Graves, who's looking just to offer the burst, and I'm just waiting for the flash taunt out of Marta. You know that it's coming. As Gorilla's going to face check that brush. Control Ward comes in, and Kingzone are going to start off this challenge very slowly. Score holding his time, but Marta's going to have to taunt to get out to safety, and KT playing so reserved on the bottom side. I was waiting for the flash taunt for Marta to get in, but nope, used to get out. KT, hold on.
Find the right moment to taunt flash, only a Tahm Kench, otherwise Devour will be used. It's a tricky one, and Trundle was there because Kingzone by the end were doing a bait themselves. So ends up just being a flash down for Marta. The laning phase gets even more tricky for the Kai'Sa. And at some point, if you're Peanut, I think you just start wrapping around the bot side, putting down deep vision, threatening a teleport, and finding a way to just punish this Kai'Sa and end the laning phase for the Varus.
Well, the problem is here for Kingzone is I feel like you have to punish the Kai'Sa and you have to punish the Azir coming in from UCal. And the Azir's had the happiest game ever so far. He's just clearing out minions in the mid lane, and BDD hasn't been able to find that range threat that you can offer with the Xerath in this matchup.
Do worry that both the hard carry threats of the Kai'Sa and the Azir, people you were mentioning, need to be shut down. Also, do a really good job shutting down an immobile Xerath. Any sort of cannon champion, which Varus and the Xerath fit into, they've got a lot of mobility to deft in UCal to try to punish their positioning as the game goes on, and they're able to get a turret lead. We already talked about the frustration of Orianna finding safe places to farm. You definitely will have the same reality with both the Xerath and the Varus as the game extends.
Yeah, and top lane is just going to be an island. Smeb and Rascal just going to be eating minions alongside one another.
Copying item builds.
Yeah, Abyssal Mask is going to come in for both of them. Very, very standard stuff as Peanut. He's just going to get Empress Divided back. A lot of damage available here from KT. Arcana Pulse comes in, but the taunt's too good from Marta as he turns up with the ultimate, and that's sliced by the soldiers of UCal for first blood.
Peanut too late on the flash, had to use it instantly, tried to outplay, but by the end there was no outplay to how much stacking CC there was, and Marta connecting. Always reliable on his engages. The Kai'Sa couldn't be caught in transition, and now the transition for KT is an early Infernal.
Yeah, Infernal Drake, exactly the prize that KT were looking for. Kingzone actually threatening here, and they do have to respect the chains of corruption. And Deft being underneath this turret meant that they will actually stave off that pressure for now.
There's no need to high roll if you're KT. If you can just fall back and extend the laning phase as a Kai'Sa, if the Azir can continue going in the mid lane, you don't need to get greedy for an Infernal, and there was the requisite amount of defense shown by Kingzone to discourage KT on that objective.
Well, once again, Peanut is going to be discovered on that ward. Ward goes down once again. Peanut notices it pretty immediately here as Score is going to go back into his jungle, and Kingzone, it's going to be their turn to head towards this Infernal Drake as Deft once again dealing with creeps right underneath his turret.
You don't have the luxury of drafting the Shen and the Kai'Sa and getting bot side Drakes. That's not what you put your draft together for. They tried to take it under the nose of Kingzone. Kingzone said no, no, no.
Also, our stats people would be annoyed because Kingzone has the most Drakes in the game, so they need to keep picking these ones up. Hey. Otherwise, that's not going to continue to be a number one.
And honestly, not enough people have thought about the poor stats people. We've had the Observers had to switch around champions, the whole meta.
Yep.
All the stats about 80 carry damage percentages in gold, they mean nothing because of the funnel games.
What are jungler's stats looking like now that half the time they were damn supports? Exactly.
In half the games. Pull one out for the Observers and the stats team. They've had a rough split.
They have, and their database better be damn robust if they're going to hold those stats in the right positions. That's very true. And I'll have you know, I was the stats guy back in Oceania, and it's really hard to build your stats database in the correct way, even regularly, in a normal meta.
I, for one, believe in Atlas stats. For example, Hanwha Life's tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
When their B team was playing.
My 0 sample size stats for a team that wasn't even on the Rift. Yeah.
The less games in the stat sample, the happier Atlas is.
That's absolutely it. Although I like single sample size instead of 0 sample size. I feel like that one was completely useless, where my other ones are just facetious.
Well, you know who does not want a 0 sample size in this game? Number 3, BDD, who was able to get off one shockwave as he died, and just like Tempt, who pulled off the same maneuver for BBQ, that was a loss. So BDD, he's on Xerath, so it is pretty damn non-interactive in the laning phase. He's just wave clearing, but finding a way to leverage BDD's farm, which is something that Kingzone failed to do in game number 2, is something they should focus on in game number 3. To me, the play is, you already took the Drake. You know they have a winning bot side. Put down the wards I was mentioning earlier, and guess what? BDD can gank by just ulting the damn Kai'Sa away from the turret, get the first blood turret, and stop Kai'Sa farming. It's a 50% HP turret. It needs to go down soon.
Well, Gorilla might go down first, as Peanut is actually here to help him out. Prey's going to turn up, but Marta turns up as well. Pushed over the wall is everybody else, but Yukao, very, very low, wants to take down Prey first, is going to get it, but the Azir dies at the same time. It's 1 for 1 as the Ornhorn comes in. They're looking for Rascal on the back end. It's only one target, but now Smeb trying to zone away the rest. There's the hyperdrive coming in from Deft to look for even more, but Gorilla does have the Devourer, and Kingzone going to walk away with a 1 for 1.
Mana misses on his taunt flash as well. The Dow would have got it. Oh boy.
That stun ain't a great one as the Arcano Pulse comes in. How's your footwork, Deft? Oh, the pillar's good, but the flash was there, and Deft will survive.
Very, very slippery, as we knew from game number 1. The flash required because of that slow. Deft lives to tell the tale in this particular one, but Kingzone, they're able to fight KT, and KT opting into fights before they're truly ready for them.
Yeah. Yukao dying very early in that fight as well, as the teleport from Deft is going to get him back down to the bottom lane. Building towards his Berserker's Greaves, realizes that boots too are very important against this composition, as BDD gets free spell hits off pretty much this whole fight.
There's nothing Yukao can do. He realizes he's being ganked, he pushes 2 people over, and then gets Varus ultimated. Reality of being the Azir that time. The Jig was up, and Jig was almost up on Rascal as well after the Killer Instinct was used by Deft, but they don't have the damage to finish him, and then the finish him sign is basically Mortal Kombat almost at this point.
Yeah.
We thought the fatality was going to be the rise of the Arcane right at the end here for Deft after he took 1 round of spells, but the Dancing Shoes moves forward. Both times that works, and then that was the one that should have hit, but it's death averted because of the flash.
Yeah, it was a good pillar from Peanut to at least make sure that the flash came out. Deft, intelligent play. And Nash's Tooth now done for Yukao. If we're going to check in on the items, first we're going to check in on the damage, as good God, Score, you did a hell of a lot. But also BDD, like I said, free spells from safe distance means that the Xerath also able to do a whole lot of damage. Turns out characters with all of their buttons doing damage do a lot of damage.
You have a way with words. It's unbelievable, Atlas.
Thank you. Thank you. That's why I was hired.
Hey, look what we're doing here. Good old BDD's coming. End this laning phase. We're calling for Kingzone. We're seeing it now.
Hey, that Rite of the Arcane you were looking for also going to come down. Good taunt to come in from Marta, but he's dead. The Spray is going to pick up the kill and the turret, and Kingzone DragonX. This is the snowball that they had available to them, and they'll find it. 400 gold now, the lead in a game that they were losing earlier on.
Really like Kingzone finally making the play we alluded to a couple of times. They had the control wards to do it. In fact, control wards are wholly being won on one side. Score does a bit of burst damage to Peanut, but he'll be able to back away. They get the turret down. They make the Kai'Sa accountable in a way Gen G and even Kingzone themselves in game number 2 were unable to do. And now the Varus can rotate through, and if you continue to put down control wards and have BDD and Prey poke multiple members away from turrets, getting that early gold should be inevitable for Kingzone DragonX.
Yeah. We do still have to look at KT's composition and understand that, yes, the tower fell down, but Deft didn't necessarily die. They had to sacrifice Marta. Deft is behind by, what, 20 CS against the Varus? Something that was to be expected. Is the scaling advantage with KT enough for them to get over this hump of first turret going down, given the loss in tempo? Or should Kingzone be able just to ride this through, ride this momentum towards a win?
The excitement is, the answer is yes to both, Atlas, because the interesting story here is that KT, with the Orin last pick, allowed themselves to have enough initiation to actually make this team fight drop. I think a team fight, KT are very comfortable as the game goes on. So in that way, they do have a positive end to this game, the light at the end of the tunnel, let's say. But you look at the side of Kingzone, they actually have very oppressive siege with the Varus and the Xerath. They've been able to get a lane, and they have the vision line to make this increase in the pace of the game very possible. It feels like the checklist has been started, and they're already 2 out of 5 steps of the way. towards increasing the pace. So both teams are working towards their win conditions, and that just means that both teams are hyper-competitive 18 minutes in.
Well, we're checking out the Black Sheep Wall cheat code vision available. Kingzone moving towards the Cloud Drake that was up after the initial Infernal. Kingzone were able to pick up. KT underneath the outer turret, making sure that they are here to defend, but this is the situation you were alluding to. The siege mode activate for Kingzone is a difficult one if they can move UCAL away from clearing out minions.
And Graves can do very little in a siege. The best he can do is buckshot the minion wave, and could just die for that because he doesn't have the greatest range, so he doesn't have identity.
Or does he have buckshot anymore?
That's true. The Q as the end of the line, I guess.
Yep.
Buckshot on the mind. Both of them line wave clear
it.
spells. They're both pretty good in that way. This is exactly what you want. You want score under a turret. He's not power farming. He's not counter jungling. He's not in position to smite away a Drake. That means you get a bit of siege done, and you also corral the KT draft at the 20-minute mark.
Well, what KT want to do is corral them around a big old boar. As Smeb wants to throw the Ornhorn out. He's headed towards the mid lane. It might be KT getting inside track here, but can they actually get some meaningful damage? No, they cannot. Rift Herald might be the option here if they can get there. At least a blue steel to come down from Score, who has ridiculous amounts of damage availability. This blue buff will be taken. Not going to get Rift Herald. KT playing very reserved this stage of the game, just ticking over to 20 minutes. Rift Herald is in fact going to just commit some seppuku, move down, and make way for big old Baron.
All about item timings here for KT. At this point, even though they have the ability to get Kai'Sa in the backline, it's just a prank. They won't actually be following an own ultimate with a Kai'Sa at 1.5 items, but the prank does end. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Feels like 3 items is where they really kick off. Kingzone have great 3-item spikes of their own, but a lot of their power is in the siege and just in the texture of their draft around a true 4v4 or 5v5. 4-1 is probably the setup you want here if you're Kingzone DragonX with the Cho'Gath, just keeping the Ornn away from initiating on the rest of the team. Whereas for KT, when the items start to come in, then you can actually stick some of the engage, but for now, they're not using.
Yeah, and in the meantime, it feels like a ticking time bomb just a little bit. The Kai'Sa is certainly one of those, but UCAL on this Azir is going to get more and more threatening. Building towards Banshee's Veil by the looks of things is item number 2. Very respectful, but certainly a necessary pickup against the likes of Azereth. Score, moving himself up the river.
And UCAL played the Azir, I believe in his first game, but certainly in his first match. And we were struck by both his mechanics, but also his aggression. This guy loves to fly in and make engages happen. So while Banshee Veil, really useful at not being knocked up or potentially exploded by Azereth, it's also going to be a bit of an encouragement for UCAL to open up for some big plays when the game does extend to the late game phase.
Yeah. See what BDD can do as well on the late game Xerath, who's no slouch in his own right. Once his damage has to be respected completely. It is a big problem as UCAL does have that Banshee's Veil that we were talking about. Does pop here, but Kingzone will move out of the way. Smeb, great positioning. Gets the knock up on the flash target who's brittle. It's BDD, he's moving. He's not shooting as Rascal. Takes so much damage. Marta as well. Now his footwork is put to the test. Heal to get himself out of the way of danger. And that's going to be all of the Rite of the Arcanes dodged by the Shen, and KT are going to be absolutely fine, but it was their engage. They weren't able to capitalize on the minion waves evaporate the hands of the Varus and the Xerath.
Varus' health bar evaporated before the W came up, as they're going to kill Score here. He's in a lot of trouble.
Yep, he's going to flash. The teleports are coming down, though. Devour used very early in this one as BDD not quite in the right position.
Man, that was a lot of backup there for the captain of KT Rolster. He will be able to back away here.
Score calls all the dudes together. The gang has all been set up. Not going to be able to do that again.
Apologies to Score. We talk about his old man. Not a eulogy for him. I eulogized too early. He actually gets to walk up for once against this KZ comp because he knows a lot of cooldowns are down and gets some turret damage in himself.
Yep. BDD finds another button that does damage to minions, though, and they do protect this outer turret for the moment. They've got a couple of dragons, but the gold is entirely even. We couldn't have asked for anything else in a game number 3. KT versus Kingzone. It's never gone to game 3 before in this current iteration of KT Rolster. It has today. What does that mean for the result? Maybe if KT win, we know 3 games equals a KT victory. But in 2018, Kingzone have not lost to this KT Rolster comp.
So many questions left, Atlas, and this early game doesn't actually put it one way or the other. It felt like we felt the lead in game number 1 for Kingzone and game number 2 for KT around 23 minutes, but we're not feeling it really.
Nope.
In this game, 200 gold, a smattering of a gold lead for KT Rolster. The fight we saw was also not really a preview of future fights because the outer turret is still up, which again is this Shurima mid lane story of the Xerath versus Azir for forever wave clear. So they could flash an immobile Xerath under a turret, and then he can actually just look for 4 hits with his ultimate and get kills. In the late game, there'll be backline threat that longer lanes provide, but the lanes are short. There's only 1 turret taken between Kingzone and KT. The team fight's very different until the later game hits.
Yeah, Mata able to get out of the way of that potential gank on the top side. Looks like the second turret of the game is in Kingzone's mind on the top side. Deft is going to take down a red buff. Void Seeker going to find a minion.
Doesn't have his second item still. No Rage Blade onto Deft.
Well, can they actually get in here in time? Mata knows that the taunt is not going to be able to lock down the Varus. It's just the edge of the Chains of Corruption are going to land, but enough space was gained by the Shen to get himself out of harm's way.
On the bot side of the map with no teleports, they were looking there, fishing, and they get another flash out of Mata, who's had to be very defensive in those. Aggressive taunt flash is what Mata has made his name on in this summer season.
Yeah.
A lot of Shen play, a lot of highlights. It's going to be dropped down for a little while. His ultimate back up soon, and finally, that 2-item spike for Deft.
Exactly. Able to get those evolutions in there, not necessarily the spike for the Storm Razor like we were talking about in game number 2, but certainly is able to get those evolutions, the Supercharger being an important one. Smeb not going to find the knock-up on Gorilla just yet, as Peanut's going to move in, but the Ornn is very tanky, deciding to go for more of a battle build with the Iceborne Gauntlet.
Infernal Drake, first one went to Kingzone, then 2-0 Drake's up.
Going to find Gorilla there with the Void Seeker. I think Deft was trying to find the Dragon instead. Does do a lot of damage if you can sit here and auto-attack.
Can also build up the Ginsu Rage on this objective.
Yeah, it is going to be taken by Score. Now the Ornn comes in, Kingzone in a row, triple knock-up is going to come down, but it looks like they have actually disengaged effectively. BDD, great positioning on the backline alongside Prey. Now we're looking for a flank. You can see Yukal moving all the way around, understanding inside track was there for Kingzone towards this outer turret. He gets there very quickly. Is he going to be able to defend is the question. Pillar comes down, Smeb, the one that's caught out. The Rupture not going to do enough to the big tanky Ornn. There's Chains of Corruption, should be able to find Yukal there as Score. Dashes his way over, and now KT might have the ultimate advantage. Knock up, not going to be found there as in goes Mata. Trying to find more, not going to get it. Whoa, okay. Killer Instinct, maybe a little bit too much there from Deft, who immediately has to flash to get himself out of there. And as the dust settles, no one is dead, but KT get themselves a Dragon.
Summoners are traded on the AD carries. The mid lane turret, the big objective for Kingzone, so hard to take from Azir, is still going to be up for at least a moment. Smeb's ultimate should be available in about 15 seconds.
You can see how confident Deft is now that he does have that double evolution. This 2-item spike is something he's feeling right now. Void Seeker not going to find the target there. There's now Cho'Gath towards the bottom side, means the Kingzone not going to stay frisky. But man, you can see it. Both of these teams so ready to get into a scuffle at a moment's notice.
But we know that Kingzone have the better ARAM comp, and that for once actually a data point because the outer turrets are still up. And while Azir has good wave clear, with enough returns, they should finally take this outer mid lane turret.
But the Ornhorn's back up yet again. Score's going to make his way in. Okay, Stopwatch going to be used by BDD. He flashes, gets himself out of the way. Rascal survives somehow for so incredibly long. And Score has to dash his way around. The quick draw's good, and he's not found by the last ability. Thankfully, Guardian available by Mata as well to give him a little bit of extra shielding, but the tower finally goes down.
That's right, the sand turret is not the same thing. Just like with Zoe and her plagiarized summoner spells, it was really difficult for Kingzone to take down this turret, but does it end up being extended? Infernal Drake, that's right, there was the Infernal Drake in the same passage of play.
Happened.
Infernal Drake for mid lane turret trade.
Well, Kingzone really going to have to play this one out as smoothly as they possibly can as we move into the later stages of the game, because remember, game number 1 slowed down, but Kingzone had a lead from the very beginning and were able to then slowly move through. This time around, scaling advantage isn't there for Kingzone. It's a very different scenario, but KT will be able to scale alongside this team. It's 2-2 in turrets, it's 1-1 as far as Infernal Drakes are concerned. It's just the towers that are putting Kingzone ahead, but they're not even putting them ahead in gold. The gold is tied up entirely.
Teamfight's going to be so fascinating here when we finally see the ability to fully commit without structures like outer turrets really muddying the waters. While KT has a lot of great teamfight consistent damage, remember that Kingzone can just Trundle ult, Cho'Gath ult, kill a frontliner, and then Graves either instantly dies that combo or Ornn is out of the fight. Going to be unable to fight. Cho'Gath, the thing about him when he came back in the meta, the best of the tanks are fighting front to back because you can just feast a tank and you actually kill the tank first and get access to the squishy center. And when you go to Graves jungle, there's a extended squishy center on the side of KT. However, KT have Killer Instinct. They have the ability for Azir to get in there and change the positioning of the enemy team. So that sort of threat here, the duality, the pendulum of how these teamfights will go, I'm just so excited to see it because the theory is always really exciting.
Well, the theory there of Marta stealing away a Rift Scuttle is a bit of a mystery to me, Pub Smithy. Shifting sands here for UCal to take away the Raptor camp, now going to go home. We'll see whether Void Staff is actually available here as Deft building towards what looks like a rapid-fire cannon.
Marta working towards just an item. He would desperately love an item.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have one completed just
hey, he's
yet.
got a Targon's Brace. Come on, man.
He does. He's got a Kindle Gem, but he doesn't have the completed Knight's Vow onto the Tahm Kench and also
he's completed either of them.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of control wards bought by Marta this game that perhaps Gorilla has been eclipsed on a little bit.
It's not called that anymore. Atlas, you silly boy. I believe that one is Revenant of the Equinox.
Hey, I said Buckshot, so you're fine.
It's not the end of the line just yet.
Well, Deft wants it to be the end of the line for Prey, because there is certainly the ability to get on top of him. The stopwatch still available for Prey, so maybe that death will be less swift than Deft would like. He's in the side lane. He'll continue side lane for a while, working on his second, or his big Zeal item, I should say. We'll see what it is. Hurricane doesn't have the synergy anymore with the Kai'Sa. Rapid Fire Cannon doesn't get the max value. Would you consider going a Phantom Dancer and just trying to brawl?
Well, I mean, it was Rapid Fire Cannon in Game 2 when he was in the Death Chamber at the very end of that game as the Nexus was falling down, but maybe that was a troll pick, not entirely sure.
It's still fine.
I have a feeling that's his favorite.
It's still fine, by all means. And just doesn't have the full value because Kai'Sa has that very short attack range.
I really like Phantom Dancer on Kai'Sa though, like you were mentioning just then. I just think that having a bit of extra survivability with a shorter range feels pretty good. And being able to be nimble around minions whilst walking through them is also useful. It's a quality of life situation.
Storm is gathering. 1 extra AD for Deft.
Oh.
Well, it's also 100 gold lead for Kingzone.
Yeah,
so
it's nothing. This game is so close.
It's a
Standing
binary
gold
game, 1-1-1,
advantage
baby.
for KT. Yeah.
Everything is close, but the outer turret still being up, and the 3 turrets to 0 does separate the two teams. More CS versus more turrets as here comes the collapse.
Yeah, Abyssal Voyage going to come down. Score going to use everything to try and get out of the way, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Does have himself the shield from the Stand United as he wants to get in there, do some damage before he inevitably falls, but Devour keeps Prey alive. The Ignite not going to be enough. He is very, very low. Not sure whether KT can actually get the work done here in order to stop this as the Ornn is going to come out. They're going to try good stun. He's going to stop Smeb from throwing the Ornn back in there. And Deft's
alone.
Now all alone in a very troubling spot. The Emperor's Divide dodged by Prey, but the AD carries are traded in the end. Hang on, wait a second. KT has still got one. Sand Soldier's doing work in the front line, but the shifting sands, is it going to be enough? I don't think so, as Kingzone are going to win the fight. Rascal slowed, but Smeb is just the last man standing, and he's not going to be able to do enough.
The interruption on the Ornn second half was so important. The Trundle Pillar stopped him from being able to cast it as Deft went into the back line. They didn't have the same disarray they expected. That's why Smeb, all he can do is employ Yakety Sax and die slowly.
Well, he's going to teleport and put that on cooldown for no reason, not get executed and get killed by Tahm Kench. That's
an unconventional maneuver.
That was, certainly. It's like how to lose as many things as possible in as short time as possible. As we got teleports to the Baron. They could be losing that one here as well. We could honestly be witnessing the end of the game right here, Papa Smithy. What can KT actually do about it? Does Score have the ability to get the Hero Smite? This isn't the same level as Secure that we saw last time around, although they do have the Feast, just no Rend. Oh god, they've got vision available. They can see it. Score wants to get through, doesn't get it. Doesn't even offer his smite. Knows that it's a little bit too much to risk to go for the 50-50 that's more like a 70-30.
Let's watch the replay to understand how this all happened. So Prey is low, trying to lifesteal back up. The Orin ultimate comes in, but notice the interruption from Peanut means that there is no Orin ult in the backline. It's Deft all alone. He has stasis, he has flash. That doesn't actually matter really in this scenario. So they trade the marksman. Yukal is a prototype of a marksman, still does a lot of consistent damage, but he's all alone. KT going in different directions. Outplayed by Kingzone, and they get the maximum with the Baron.
Yep, Baron is going to be taken. Kingzone now 6-3. The gold lead has ballooned. It's back to that quintessential 3,000 mark we were talking about earlier on. Big damage done by Yukal in that last team fight. Doesn't feel like that game where the Azir is going to be able to rock these fights though, because BDD's positioning in the backline is exactly why Xerath was picked into the Azir. Because he's going to spread out this team fight to the point where Kingzone's going to be offering damage from multiple different points, multiple different ranges, and the AoE damage nature of the auto-attacking Azir is not going to be enough to overcome it.
Score getting caught, drew so many cooldowns, including that Shen ultimate that wasn't there for Deft.
Yeah.
They had to mismanage some of their ults, and now they're against a Baron and an impressive siege comp. We already said Xerath Varus needs no introduction. They should be looking at minimum 2 inhibitors with this push.
See what they can do. Smeb does have the Ornhorn. He's setting up for it and is going to blow it once again. Pillar, not going to be enough. A triple knockup comes in from this one as KT at least buys some space. But that's a cooldown for just a disengage and a minion wave gifted over. Another one has been brewing, moving up the lane, and Kingzone now going to once again join the siege and all of the poke damage that's going to go with it. This inhibitor turret's going to go down. KT going to head back to the fountain, tail between their legs. Not going to see any other inhibitor turrets fall because it's good minion wave positioning by KT. However, Kingzone get exactly what they want. They break the base in the mid lane. They've opened up the map. They'll take themselves a red buff. And this is about as good as you want this stage of the game, given how close it was and what KT had available to them.
And you just keep pushing. If you're Kingzone, you know that around sieges with Baron, there is nothing KT can do. That is not something available to them in the draft. They're going to take down this second turret, and with 50 seconds left, Atlas, I said 2 inhibitors. I wasn't joking, and neither are Kingzone.
Nope, they're going to move forward here. They could even have Rascal tank this one up. The man is so incredibly huge. On the Cho'Gath, it looks like if Kingzone get Cho'Gath, they win games. Wasn't the case a couple of days ago. It is today as Rascal moves forward. Doesn't matter which top laner it is, Khan or Rascal. It's all about the Cho'Gath as there's another horn. Can Smeb actually find it? Gets the knock up. It's onto that Cho that we were talking about. He's going to take a lot of damage, but not enough. The flash gets him out of the way. Righteous Glory also going to help, but the meat shield has been shattered, and the inhibitor is going to survive.
With these flashes up, and there'll be flashes coming back on the likes of Peanut, just be a meat shield for a while. Yes, you are susceptible to the damage of an Azir and a Kai'Sa. Every champion in the league is. But as long as no one's going down, there's no ability to profit from a single kill, and not even the single kill being registered. They got their objective of the second inhibitor turret, not quite the inhibitor, but definitely the scene of the crime can be returned to. And I imagine the Baron. They can get a second one here, Kingzone. That should close out the series.
Good news story for KT is the fact that they did only have to deal with super creeps in the mid lane. And now that the Baron buff's gone, they do have a lot of wave clear to deal with them.
4 items onto their Azir as well. Deathcap just complete. Deathcap soon to come out from the Xerath, and gotta say BDD has been able to be very safe in all these fights. We haven't seen KT hit the next side of threatening the backline. Big Baron buff power play. There were a lot of turrets to be picked up. 3,400 gold is the power play coming through from Kingzone.
Feels like it's a game that's not over until it's over. 6,000 gold for Kingzone as far as the lead. But despite that, often you feel at this point in a game, it's just a matter of time before the team rolls over the top. I'm not getting that feeling here. KT, they do have tools available. They've got a lot of damage potential.
They just can't lose another Baron Atlas. That's where I feel like the inevitability does happen. Between Baron buff minions, Xerath, with soon to be a Deathcap and the Varus. I can't see KT being able to repel the push. So Kingzone pushing up. They want to get 2 inhibitors before the Baron spawns.
Well, Smeb wants to get himself a Xerath with the Ram. Whether he can or not is another question entirely. Kingzone waiting for a minion wave. Push in and grab this next inhibitor. I was going to say turret. The turret's no longer there. Okay, Eye of Destruction not actually going to register onto Yukal. A lot of buttons being used here by BDD. He's got a blue buff, so it doesn't really matter. And he can Arcano Pulse 4 days. Peanut and Smeb just fighting one another here off to the side. Yukal gets in there with the Sand Soldiers, but now it buys space for Kingzone to move up towards this inhibitor. Any free damage from Prey is a huge deal. Score moving his way in. Def trying to get auto attacks to get rid of these. But there's the Ornhorn. Start of the fight has come in. Peanut, the only one that's going to get knocked up as Chains of Corruption go wide, but they get themselves the inhib. Can KT find a team fight on the back half? The answer is hell no. Base is just under fire, and KT can't get anything from it.
KT have 2 different ideas about what to do in the team fight. The Ornhorn is used only onto the Trundle for the hope of killing the Smite. And that means that the fallback Baron isn't an option for Kingzone. They don't have any threat onto him. He doesn't go down, but does use his stasis. Sells it. Will go into a giant spell to stay tanky. Elder and Baron spawn at precisely the same time. And KT, for now, don't have the ability to get to either of them.
Yeah. Deft is going to go back. He tried to push that bottom wave forward, but it feels pretty inevitable that Rascal's going to go down there, or Prey. Both of them with the teleports available. They can get to a Baron whenever they want to. Kingzone with sole vision control of the area. This game played out very calmly, very collectedly by Kingzone, playing to their win conditions. This is something that we've criticized Kingzone of in days past. It wasn't 2 days ago that we were asking what the heck's happening to the draft, what the heck's happening to the communication. In this game, Kingzone look like a unit. They look like they have a plan, and they're executing beautifully with finesse and poise.
Well, KT going to try to win the game here.
Yep, there's another one. Oh my god, Def just going to frontline as best he can. Mata flashes forward, but I don't think that's enough for the CC that they were looking for. The Cho'Gath going to get rid of the Shen, and KT are on the road.
He's dead.
Oh, the piercing arrow is going to take down Def, and I feel that's the end of the game. Both of the marksmen are dead as the Graves is going to fall. Yukal, that's going to be the rupture that's going to end KT. 2 games or 3 games, 2018 is the year of Kingzone.
Kingzone take down KT Rolster again. They're going to go up and finish the game now. Smeb went for the flank, his trademark flank, but unfortunately they couldn't find any kills. Kingzone too robust in their gameplay. The Tahm Kench there to disengage. Smeb going to try and buy time. It's once again the lore battle. It seems like the 3 Rocks Tigers beats the 1.
Yeah, the Ornn unfortunately just going to get eaten and taken down. Wonder whether Gorilla's going to get stronger now that he's consumed his older brother on the top side of the map. Mata going to run in, just going to press all of his buttons because there's nothing he can do. Nexus